Have you ever rescued a damsel in distress? Have you ever escaped death with just your wits, or perhaps a quick tactical retreat? Have you ever been the villain? Have you ever paid someone to kill a king? Have you ever slain a dragon? I have. I'm a kid at heart, plain and simple. Before I ever attempted to philosophize, before I became an athlete, before I ever tried to write anything, I was a kid. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Kids have a wonderful ability to live in the moment and to enjoy whatever they're doing, despite how others may look at them. You see a kid using his imagination, trying to be something fantastical, and you don't give it a second thought. You see a bunch of adults or teenagers sitting around rolling dice and basically doing the same thing, and you're quick to label them as socially inept, awkward, nerds, or just plain uncool. Well, I think that's bullshit. I'll come right out and say it. I play Dungeons and Dragons. I LARP. Does that make me a socially awkward virgin? No. Does it give me a very significant chance of being one in the past? Yes. For those of you normal folk who need a little help understanding what Dungeons and Dragons is, I can give you a basic explanation. It's a fantasy role-playing game that's set in one of many universes, and it's actually the original tabletop role-playing game, which, so you guys know, is the basis for your WoWs and your Diablos, which I don't play.
That's right. I'm old school, bitches. What?
For those of you that need a little help understanding what a gaming session might be like, you get a bunch of junk food, and you sit down at a table with a bunch of friends. And usually you'll have a game master. Your game master is important. One of your micromanaging megalomaniac friends might volunteer to be your game master. Don't do it. Get the funny, creative story writer. If all you have at your disposal is that megalomaniac, micromanaging asshole friend of yours who takes the term master all too seriously, then you may want to appease him, bring him Mountain Dew and Funyuns and various other geek staples, and you may actually, your character may prosper in his fantasy realm. If you piss him off, though, these people are known to have your character die in unexpected and, frankly, creative ways. Your GM sets up the game much like a narrator, according to the guidelines of the game. And by guidelines, I mean rules. And by rules, I mean, if your GM wants exploding donkeys or seals with lasers on their head, then he'll have it. Especially if he's that megalomaniac, micromanaging bastard. Anyway, you and your friends / party members take on the characters you've created. Much like improvisational acting, you dictate your character's actions through its knowledge, skills, and personality that you've created. Those action successes are almost entirely dependent on your character's skills, the game rules, random dice rolls, and your game master's discretion. So it's kind of like playing WoW with the game mechanics set out in front of you on the table, except you actually have to use acting and imagination and, various other things. I think the hardest thing for most pure computer gamers to understand about Dungeons and Dragons or any other tabletop game is the simple fact that your most powerful weapon is your imagination, not some piece of code. I also LARP, which stands for live action role playing. It's kind of like improvisational acting with some sort of game set or common theme. Most LARPs have a game master of some sort who sets up monsters and makes sure everything runs smoothly with this often unruly mix of undersexed nerds and oversexed nerds. There are 3 aspects to LARPing that I actually pay attention to. The 4th is politics. Nobody likes a bunch of self-important douches going crazy with the power that other people have given them. Let's get the worst of it out of the way right now, the actual role-playing. Now, most people in my game have a pretty decent understanding of who and what their character is supposed to be. You can roleplay yourself as an elf or a dwarf or a vampire if anyone cares. It doesn't really affect the day-to-day play. Generally, roleplay is reserved for quests and for larger campouts and events like that. Amtgard as a whole does not roleplay nearly as much as some other LARPs. We're more interested in the combat as far as I can tell, but we'll get to that later. The second aspect of LARPing that I actually think is a redeemable feature is the making of things. Music, armor, weapons, whatever. It's awesome. Arts and Sciences kicks ass. Now, I'm not very good at it. I can make a legal weapon to hit somebody with, but I don't have nearly the artistic talent or the patience to do some of the amazing things I've seen done in Amtgard. I've seen suits of black plate mail backed with leather that are just absolutely beautiful. It's amazing. Now, on to my favorite. Go figure, the combat. Foam weapon combat in general is called boffing. Some LARPs have hit point systems. We have none of that nonsense in Amtgard. If you get hit in the torso, you're dead. If you get hit in the arm, guess what? You can't use your arm. Which leads to something in Amtgard known as skill, badassery, kung fu, which really translates into I'm really good at hitting people with foam padded sticks, which is oddly effective when a group of teenagers armed with hockey sticks and football gear and various other improvised weapons from their homes charge you and your buddies with the intent of hitting you. Yes, D&D and LARPing attracts its share of awkwardly sweaty, socially inept freaks, geeks, and others. But I've found through these creative beings a lot of great friendships. These socially inept, awkward folk see things that your more polished members of society never would have. To paraquote one of my heroes, losers see things that others simply cannot. They know what it's like to be cast out, to be tread on. It's great to be part of something that brings them together on the weekends and allows them to know that they're not alone in this sea of humanity, that they're not alone in their experiences. A lot of them are really great people who otherwise wouldn't have many friends. And then there are those who just want to get drunk and hit each other with foam padded sticks. So long.